Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of the Week of Wrestling podcast. I am joined again by my co-host, Nicos. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. We're here for the week of wrestling, and I've really been wrestling with the week and all of its struggles and challenges, but that is life, and life is wrestling, and wrestling is life, and we're here to talk about it.
I'm so confused already. I feel so bad for our listeners.
This is the analogy you get when your sleep schedule has been all over the place.
So, we have a lot of news to discuss, including Progress Chapter. I have to look that up real quick. Chapter 76, Hello Wembley match card. We also are talking about everything in WWE and indie news. So let's kick off with said WWE news. With our first story, Raw this past week posted the lowest rating in the modern era history. So, Nico, open up your thoughts about what this could mean for Raw going forward.
Okay, so I think we've said it on like the previous 2 episodes as to what the big problem is with Raw. And it's been mostly in comparison to SmackDown, which is SmackDown has something that works for them, which is they have rivalries that are interpersonal and they can last for long periods of time. They have game plans for where these rivalries can go. Specifically, they have end games for where these rivalries could go. Whereas Raw, it feels like they're just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. I want to make this clear though. Raw's issues have nothing to do with who holds the championships. It has to do with what are they doing with the champions once they get those belts. And in which case, we're getting a good tag team feud, a good faction feud between the Dogs of War and the Shield. But it doesn't feel like they have a clear-cut vision of where that rivalry is going to go. As we saw this week, they're teasing like Dean Ambrose pulling a heel turn and potentially joining the Dogs of War and specifically going after Seth's title. But then at the end of Raw, he's like, nah, I'm going to stick with my brothers. So who knows if anything is made of that at either the next Raw or at the Super Showdown. As for Ronda Rousey, I'm not entirely sure who she is set to face in between now and Evolution. We don't even know if those Nikki Bella rumors are actually going to come to fruition. Among other things, Bobby Lashley and Kevin Owens and Elias, it's very unclear as to what they're doing with them and other things. Like, I like that they're promoting the mixed match challenge with some of their matches from this week. Finn Balor versus Jinder Mahal with Bayley and Alicia Fox on the outside. But again, in terms of like actual Raw storylines, what do they have going for them? And now they're using the Cruiserweight division as like managerial figures because 205 Live apparently isn't doing well in the ratings either. The mixed match challenge might have something to do with it as well because it's kind of conflicting with schedules. But yeah, it just feels like there's no clear-cut game plan with Raw. And that could easily be because Vince McMahon, we've heard the stories backstage, the writers could have something planned and all of a sudden, like 5 minutes before they go on the air, Vince McMahon's like, no, change it or you're fired. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
All right, so I have the stats brought up from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. It says that the 3 hours from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. started off strong with 2.49 million views, and then took a detour the second hour with 2.28, and then stayed at 2.28 for the last 2 hours. They're saying that it has to do with it being like new season of TV coming back and the NFL games. But I do agree with you.
That definitely plays a role. Like when the Arrowverse shows come back, I'm assuming you and I are going to be tuning in heavily, and that could interfere with our ability to watch wrestling live, and vice versa. Wrestling could interfere with our ability to watch the Arrowverse shows as they first air. And Monday Night Football, yeah, that like this is that time of year where Vince McMahon gets nervous, and you should have a game plan in place to make sure your programming is up to snuff, so you can actually put up a fight against the NFL when they have their Monday night games. And from the looks of it, they do not. And it's arguable that the best feud Raw has going for them right now is Triple H versus The Undertaker, featuring Shawn Michaels and Kane. And like the promotion for that match, there have been no matches in between, and it's just been like one promo a week featuring one of the guys involved. So it's crazy that has the most clear-cut game plan out of everything going on the Red brand.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you that it all comes down to keeping your audience invested for the 3 hours. I'm still going to keep arguing this. They should keep Raw at 2 hours.
I was fine with the decision to make it 3 hours because I understood the benefits of that, of giving the roster on Raw more time to show their stuff. The problem is they're not doing that. They're giving some people stuff to work with, and then they're just giving other people like weird backstage segments that don't go anywhere. Like Baron Corbin as the constable, who Lord knows where that's going. I mean, like he was Stephanie's appointed a lapdog, and now she's pissed at him because he's booking himself into title matches, which I think we all expected he was going to do at some point because it's Baron Corbin. And like that's another thing. Like the general manager, the evil general manager storyline is so overdone, especially on Raw, that you'd think they'd want to move away from that. Look at what they're doing with Paige on SmackDown. Like she has very limited exposure, but when she is used, she's used effectively. She helps push the storylines on the blue brand going forward. And Raw, it just feels like Baron Corbin, because he is still able to actively wrestle. That might be a part of it. He is part of the focal point of a lot of the weirdness that goes on there.
Yeah, it's all about like where I was going at is when Raw went to 3 hours, I was saying, okay, this could be good. But the first month and a half, I was saying this is not going to work because they're doing exactly what they are doing now, giving people useless storylines that usually end in nothing. And then, the second hour is always the slowdown period, the period where people want to leave or go somewhere else or watch something else or tune off. That's where people usually tune off, is about the second hour mark. Then they come back for the main event. But if you had a good structured 2 hour show like SmackDown, people would be more invested and you could have enough time to focus on your main feuds, the feuds that people care about, instead of them going off at the second hour and then coming back in the main event.
Yeah. I mean, I still want them to keep the 3 hours simply because I want to see if they can finally get their shit together and do it.
They're not going to be able to.
You're probably right about that, but I would like to at least be optimistic that they will one day wake up and be able to do that.
If anything, if Triple H ends up taking over, he might end up turning Raw back into a 2 hour show. That way he can work with that.
He has said that his goal is to bring Raw back to 2 hours and to make NXT 2 hours long, featuring the 205 Live rosters. So
he combine them together.
Yeah, so he can make the most out of everything. That's
a man who has a plan for the future.
And that's again, that goes back to things we've heard on the dirt sheets about how Triple H, before he would send guys up to the main roster, he would always make sure that there was a 6-month plan in place so that the Tyler Breeze effect wouldn't happen, so that the Neville effect wouldn't happen, so that the Bo Dallas effect wouldn't happen. He wanted to make sure everyone was safe once they got on the main roster.
And that hasn't been the case. Look at Finn Balor.
And now you can say the same for like Kevin Owens and like
Sami Zayn.
Neville quit because of the fact that he was pissed off at the direction things were going.
Sami Zayn's another big one that.
Well, he's injured right now, so.
Well, I mean, even before that, he wasn't doing anything.
True. And even Baron Corbin, like, he was someone Vince was high on, and now he's like in the weirdest place. No way, Jose. Like,
where the hell is he?
Yeah, like he was set for big things, and then all of a sudden, poof, gone. Like, not doing anything anymore.
All right, so let's move on from before we get way off topic again. Let's move on to a person you just talked about. Shawn Michaels is looking to come back to wrestle not one match, but 2 matches. One at Crown Jewel, which is going to be rumored to be DX versus the Brothers of Destruction for the Crown Jewel event. And the other one is a one-on-one match against The Undertaker at Survivor Series.
So this is interesting because I was at Extreme Rules. That was Kane's last televised match. And from what I understand, I thought I had heard that he had like broken his ankle or his foot, and like this, and because of his mayoral duties in Knox County, Tennessee, that we could have
Mayor Kane.
Yeah, we could have potentially seen the last of Glenn Jacobs in a wrestling ring. So this is very interesting. I'm not even talking about the guy right now who is coming back from retirement for this match, Shawn Michaels. One thing about is it's going to be very weird to see him wrestle without long hair for the first time in, I think, his entire life. We're so used to the balding ponytail look that it'll be interesting to see him without it in the ring, in action, because that adds effect. The flowing hair, it adds effect every time you get thrown back. It adds something to it. Same with music. I'm upset, but not for the reasons you might think. Because we have been hearing rumors that Shawn might be coming back for a long time now. I'm a little upset it's here, and it's not like one of the past 2 Royal Rumbles in which he was rumored to face AJ Styles in Texas. Like, when I heard rumors of that, when there were photoshopped posters going around, I was like, oh my God, give me. And if he's only booked for 2 matches in his return, then it means that it might slip from our fingers yet again. So I'm hoping that they find a way to convince him to stay just until after WrestleMania season for maybe like at least 2 additional matches on this schedule. But now getting to the actual focal point of this conversation. Brothers of Destruction versus DX. It'll be interesting to see how these guys do in terms of athletic ability, because for one, Shawn Michaels hasn't been in a ring in a long time. 2, Triple H, we saw him at WrestleMania, and basically the star of his match was Ronda Rousey. Everyone kind of was either moving slowly or not. I don't want to say lethargically, but it was just like it was a slow-paced match until she got involved, and then things picked up from there. Undertaker, his last match we saw him in was, I believe, at the Greatest Royal Rumble against Rusev in a casket match, and he exceeded my expectations there. But again, rust. How much rust is he dealing with? And granted, he's probably going to shake a lot of that rust off at the Super Showdown. He's probably been training his ass off to put on a performance for the people in Melbourne, Australia. Fourthly, Kane. Again, possibly broken ankle or foot. I can't remember the injury specifically. But,
I think it was ankle.
Well, he did suffer an injury of some kind to his leg, and that's kept him out of action. And obviously being a mayor now, I'm not entirely sure what his workout regimen has been since then. So hopefully all these guys can put on a good match with all those factors in consideration. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, on paper, we've seen what happened the last 2 times these guys went at it. Arguably 2 of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. One was just action-packed bell to bell. The other one told a phenomenal story of 2 men fighting off injury and going off and ego versus ego. And could this be the last we see of either the Streak or Shawn Michaels as a whole? So on paper, the recipe is there. But again, laying out all those factors I just mentioned for the tag team match, can they overcome those obstacles? We will find out.
Why? Why are we getting Shawn Michaels back? And I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan, don't get me wrong. But he was the one. He was the one legend that retired the way he wanted to and stayed retired. And now he's going to ruin that. Why? He doesn't need the money. He's set. I don't know if this is a favor he's doing for Triple H or whatever, but I don't want to see Shawn Michaels come back because the retirement was perfect. And if you bring him back and we see 4 old dudes in a tag team match, no. Get past. I'm sorry. Let go of the past. Focus on the future. That's what you need to do. You don't need 4 old dudes from the 90s coming back in and maybe having a decent match. Because WrestleMania, what was it, 26? Was the last Shawn Michaels match.
That was in 2010, though. And again, that was one of the best WrestleMania performances of all time. So if I can spin this in a positive light, these guys, despite how long they've been in the business, they can still go. And granted, there is something to be angry about with Shawn Michaels being the one guy who retired on the right terms and is now being brought back in. But they've made that at least part of the storyline. They've made it, he's given an explanation as to, I've stayed in retirement when everyone else didn't out of respect for this business, and so I can set the trend. And so, like, obviously they're planting a seed for, like, something to happen in the next couple weeks or so that just makes Shawn realize, I can't stay retired anymore. And we'll see where whether that little seed can grow into a beautiful tree. And also, all these guys have been wrestling well into since 2010 at least. Like, so despite their age, they've proven that they can still go. So we might be again, this is uncharted territory. We'll see whether this is good or bad. I've laid out scenarios for both.
As I was saying, WrestleMania 26 ended in a great way. It was a fantastic match, and Shawn Michaels leaving on his own terms. It was what he wanted to happen. He had one fantastic, incredible match to end off on. Why bring him back to do freaking, 10 to 12 more matches and then have him retire off of that? It's like Ric Flair. Ric Flair could have retired against Shawn Michaels at 24, but he didn't. He went to TNA and had some horrible matches except for one segment with Jay Lethal.
That was more so for money reasons, though.
True. Again, though, Michaels doesn't need the money.
And if he's coming back and he doesn't need the money, then that must mean he feels that physically and mentally he's in the best place for to do this. Like, if there were ever so, like, that's the thing with Shawn Michaels is he got out at the right time. So if he's coming back, he must feel like it's a good place in his life for him to actually make this comeback. That's just my thinking. I'm trying to get Shawn Michaels, and I feel like if he feels it's time for him to come back, even if just for a temporary basis, then everything must be going right for him.
All I'm saying is, if this somehow leads to him versus AJ, then I'll be happy.
As will I.
So let's move on. So our last WWE news is Myuu, formerly known as Jade in Impact, and also a contestant in the Mae Young Classic Season 1 and 2, has officially signed with NXT and will make her debut this weekend at an NXT house show. No word yet on who her opponent is, but Nico, thoughts on this story?
So I remember Myuu when she was Jade. Now, I remember her just briefly. I remember the Dollhouse storyline that was going on. And I think it was right around the time where Impact was changing networks again. So that's kind of where I dropped off, is just because I didn't get the network that they were on anymore. But yeah, then I saw her in the Mae Young Classic. Didn't realize it was her didn't realize it was her, and I had already seen her in action before. But yeah, she did really well in Season 1. Unfortunately, I don't think I've been able to see any of her matches from Season 2 yet because life, and I've just been behind on Season 2. I saw the first episode of the first round of matches, but since then I've been behind on everything else. But I will definitely get back to them at some point over the weekend. And her matches are definitely going to be ones that I look forward to, because obviously the crowd is high on her. The promotion is high on her. So she's going to do great things. She's going to do great things.
Yeah. Is there an
echo? Keep talking.
Hello?
No echo. No echo. You're good.
Okay. Well, I have watched at least first 2 episodes of the Mae Young Classic, and on episode 2, I believe, she takes on Ashley Kay, aka Sienna from Impact Wrestling. So this is a little feud that's going on for, God, I think they said about 3 or 4 years over different promotions. But that was a really, really good match. Myuu is one of those competitors that works well for something like NXT. She's an NXT women's competitor. She'll work with a lot of people, and she's more experienced than you think. So she'll be able to help younger NXT talents get over and work the crowd and all that stuff. But overall, I mean, you have a seasoned competitor who's been, I think they said, about 10 years, 10, 15 years, like constantly working. And her matches are just top notch, man. She blends a good style of strong style and high flying ability like I haven't seen before. And that's where her style works well, is when she can take to the air or she can ground someone out and really work them down with the strong style ability. So I'm really excited for this news.
And NXT will definitely be a good fit for her, because NXT is good at picking up people from the independent promotions that have been in the business for a long time and have been able to season their craft everywhere and anywhere. And she's definitely one of those competitors, and she will do great things with whoever they put her against. Nikki Cross, Candice LeRae, Shayna Baszler. Shayna is still around at that time, and the stars are aligning for some good feuds in the future with her.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. All right, are you ready to move on to the independent wrestling news?
Before we do, there's one bit of news that is not on here, and that is that this week, Kofi Kingston broke the record for for most days spent as an individual tag team champion in WWE. As of Tuesday, it was 494 days. As of this taping, I believe it is 497. As of when this episode will drop, I believe it will be 498. So he had Kofi Kingston has been one of the trailblazers in the promotion for a long time. I believe he made his debut in like 2005, 6, 7. Can't remember the exact year, but he was brought on.
I believe.
He was brought on the ECW brand and then became a big staple on Raw, feuding with Randy Orton and almost getting a big world title push before like some backstage shenanigans, which Randy Orton is apparently well known for. Since then, he's been, I don't want to say regulated, because he's made the most of those opportunities he's been given on the main card, becoming a multi-time Intercontinental Champion, a multi-time United States Champion, and a multi-time Tag Team Champion, of which now he is the longest individual Tag Team Champion of all time. And Xavier Woods has said on record that it is his goal, before Kofi retires, to get Kofi a world championship. So knowing how well SmackDown has done with the people they have, they can make that rivalry work. They can make Kofi versus AJ as a battle of seasoned veterans who are trying to prove themselves at these final stages of their career. They can make that rivalry work. There doesn't need to be any animosity. It can just be one of those feuds that's built on respect and wanting to fulfill that one goal that has not been fulfilled yet.
I could see it, but even though I've always stated that I think Big E is a future WWE champion.
And I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that I think both Kofi and Xavier Woods, they want Kofi to be the first of them to hold a world title, if any of them get the world title.
You know, what if Kofi wins the belt and then Big E turns heel, breaks up the New Day, and then it's Kofi versus Big E for the title?
Nah, they're not going to break those guys up. They are the New Day is the example of a team that has been able to stand together for years in a time where teams don't last very long anymore. Like even the Shield broke up at some point, but the New Day is kind of like a throwback to the old days where you could be a team but still have singles endeavors while also being part of a team. And
I mean, yeah.
I like that about them. These guys basically go everywhere together. They drive together. They live together on the road. These guys are the true epitome of brothers, and it would be just a completely bad idea to break them up because they want to see each other succeed. We see how they interact with each other behind the scenes, and if Xavier and Big E were like hyping Kofi to become the world champion, and then all of a sudden Kofi just suddenly betrays him, it would make sense because we know how well these guys. We know how strong these guys bond together.
No, I said Big E turns on Kofi. And
I heard you, and I'm saying it wouldn't be a good idea to have the New Day turn on each other.
I don't know, like I feel like after a while the New Day shtick is gonna wear out, and you got to do something that gives it kind of an edge. And you know, I feel like with SmackDown being, doing rivalries that are really personal, I feel like you could add a little bit of that personal outside, kind of kayfabe, like outside kayfabe stuff with Big E. Like, this is my chance, my opportunity, and I'm taking it. And then, they can work a way around that storyline between Kofi and Big E for the title, with Xavier like kind of in the middle.
You're saying this assuming that they won't freebird the world title if they win it.
I hope they do not.
I look, they did it with Lay Cool and the Divas title. I feel like
the freebird rule works with tag teams. It does not work with singles, especially when you have 3 guys. You should have 1 world champion.
I'm just saying, with the New Day, anything is possible.
God, I hope they don't do that, because that would just ruin the prestige of the belt. Then it's like, oh, are the Shield technically all world champions now? Are they holding the Universal title? No, Roman Reigns is. But let's move on. To the independent wrestling news. So we start off with Progress Wrestling Chapter 76, Hello Wembley preview. So I have the match card up. So let's go over it real quick. We have the give me 1 second so I can bring that up. All right, so we start off with the Thunder Bastard Tag Team Tournament Finals.
Wait, Thunder Bastard? That's the name?
Yes. And it's a 8-man gauntlet, tag team championship gauntlet, as the Luchador Sensation, Flamita and Bandito take on the CCK, which is Chris Brooks and Timothy Thatcher. Aussie Open, which is Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher. Grizzled Young Veterans, Zach Gibson and James Drake. Anti-Fun Police, No Fun Done and Santos. Sexy Star, David Starr and Jack Sexsmith. And the 198, Flash Morgan Webster and Wild Boar and Eminem Mills and Mayhew. There we go. Next, we have a no DQ grudge match as Jimmy Havoc takes on Paul Robinson. Matt Riddle on his last Progress match against Mark Haskins. A TLC match, Mark Andrews taking on Eddie Dennis. The Atlas Championship and career is on the line as Trent Seven takes on champion Doug Williams, with Doug Williams' career on the line. The Progress Women's Championship as Jenny takes on Tony Storm and Millie McKenzie. Pete Dunne versus Ajay Dragunov. I'm sorry if I butchered that name. And in your main event, the Progress World Championship is on the line as champion Walter takes on challenger Tyler Bate.
Oh, dear.
So, Nico, thoughts on this huge Progress card?
Okay, so you introduced me to Walter last week, and I took one look at the man, and I was like, oh my God, this dude is a fucking beast. Like, gigantic, and yet he can do aerial maneuvers as well. And he's fighting basically the biggest little man in the business today in Tyler Bate, this 5'7" person who's the same age as us that can somehow lift things that are like 400 times his size.
Dude, I want to see Tyler Bate hit the squatting airplane spin on Walter.
So basically, we have a scenario where you'd think the guy with this body type should be doing these moves, and the guy with this body type should be doing these moves. But it's the exact opposite. We've got an aerialist heavyweight taking on a strongman lightweight, and it's for the world championship, which I thought Pete Dunne held, but apparently he lost the belt.
He lost the belt to Walter. Yes.
Jeez, I gotta catch up on my progress. Obviously, if you beat Pete Dunne at this stage in Pete Dunne's career, you're someone to look out for. And Tyler Bate is one of those workhorse guys who's going to cement Walter as someone to watch out for in the future if he hasn't already gotten his name out there already. Other matches.
What are name your top 3 matches that you're looking forward to on this card?
Well, obviously the World Championship match now. Let's see here. What else is on the card? I'm looking at the thing right now. Trent Seven and Douglas Williams for the Atlas Championship with Doug Williams' career on the line. Trent Seven, he's basically going to become a staple of the WWE's NXT UK scene now. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's a given that Doug Williams should win unless he plans on hanging them up. He is kind of I've been following Douglas Williams since he was in TNA, and he was part of the British Invasion. So he's been around the game for a long time. So who knows? Maybe he feels like hanging him up. I don't
But
know.
also, I mean, with WWE having, made a deal with Progress, they can still have Trent win the title and then go back and forth between the two shows.
You're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. But
Because, I mean, all the talent exchange they do.
but with the added stipulation of the retirement being on the line, it just would seem weird to me if Doug Williams were to lose this match.
Like you said, unless he's wanting to hang it up and then, of course, go out on your back.
Let's see. A final match I'm interested in. That would have to be Jimmy Havoc versus Paul Robinson. Paul Robinson looks like what would happen if you pretty much puts Christopher Daniels into a shrinky dink machine.
He does.
Yes. But I have seen him go to the extreme, and anybody who follows Jimmy Havoc knows that he can go to the extreme. And a no DQ match, I'm expecting staples to the nipples. I'm expecting thumbtacks. I'm expecting pretty much an entire
staple to the nipple.
Yes. I'm expecting a staple gun to the nipples, and basically the ring is going to look like a hardware store exploded by the end of the match.
Yep. So of course I'm looking forward to the main event of Tyler Bate versus Walter. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay. Just want to make sure. So yeah, of course the main event is going to be epic. The no DQ match that has my attention. Jimmy Havoc and Paul Robinson. I mean, these two guys are known for their deathmatch style of wrestling. So that's just going to be a brutal match. And then if I had to pick a third one that's not the Atlas Championship match, probably be the Progress Women's Championship match. Jenny, Tony Storm, and Millie McKenzie.
If you would have let me add a fourth match, that would have been my go-to match as well.
Yeah, I mean, that match just looks really, really, really good. Especially with Jenny being on the Mae Young Classic, and I've seen her work, and of course Tony Storm is freaking amazing. And then Millie McKenzie is someone that not a lot of people may know, but I first heard of her thanks to Defiant Wrestling and her feud with Bree Paisley.
Bree Priestley.
Yes. So yeah, she can work. She can definitely work, and she's super young too. I think she's in her early 20s. 19 to 20.
If I remember correctly, she debuted in Defiant in her feud with Bree Priestley. She was like, what, 18 years old, I think? So she's
18, yeah.
a young one, and already she's on the same career path as Tyler Bate in terms of she's the young one who is making the biggest strides at the earliest point in her career.
It kind of makes me sad, though, because it's like comparing them to me, I'm just like, what am I doing with my life?
You're podcasting with me.
But yeah, this show looks absolutely incredible. It looks really jam-packed with epic matches. As someone who kind of dabbles with Progress some, I'm definitely going to go back and watch all of them to get caught up. But yeah, this one looks really good just because of the cast of people they have involved.
Yeah, and our good buddy Dave Goodyear, he's been telling me Progress is the place to be, and I agree with him 100%. I just wish they would come to my area so I could watch a show with their roster. And I've been on the search for them. I've been waiting for someone to say like, "Oh, Progress is coming to Pittsburgh," and just so far it has not come yet.
I think Progress is more of an England based.
Yes, but with guys like Matt Riddle, and I believe at one point Johnny Gargano was also affiliated with the promotion, and I think also maybe like Pete Lee, and like just a lot of the NXT guys that were
Pete Lee.
Yeah, is it?
It's Keith Lee.
Oh shit,
Keith Lee.
I'm sorry, Keith Lee. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. Let's move on. Let's move on.
All right.
Let's move on.
So next we have Joey Janela. Of course, you guys know him from. Well, I know him from his All In match with Hangman Page. That was just entertaining as hell. But apparently he is injured, and he gave us an update. Let me see if I can find that real quick.
So this injury, did it happen at All In or after?
No, it happened after. It happened at Live Fast, Die Young, which is a GCW event. He was taking on Psychosis and attempted a crossbody, landed on his right knee. He tore his PCL, MCL. He fractured a bone in his knee, and he sprained his ACL.
So that leg is basically just jacked.
Yeah. He said it's going to be, or among other things he had on there, but he said it's going to be about a minimum of 10 months out, maybe even more.
That's disappointing for him because, like, as we saw with his All In performance, he is someone who delivers. He's someone who knows how to put on a good show for the fans. And my introduction to Joey Janela was actually a little bit before All In. It was through his girlfriend, Penelope Ford. Yes, she made an appearance on Grimm's Toy Show, competing for James Ellsworth's Intergender Championship when in one of the appearances James Ellsworth has made on that show. And he was in a tag team match which featured a couple of Grimm's guys. And after the match, Grimm was like, why don't you bring Joey Janela and we'll put you and him up against Jimmy Rave, who also Jimmy Rave also appears on Grimm's Toy Show every now and then, and one of Grimm's wrestlers, Gabby Gilbert. And that match unfortunately never happened. I guess it was just a matter of scheduling. But now it looks like it'll be even longer before that match happens, or any other match for Joey Janela, for that matter, because. Well, 10 months on the shelf. It'll be a while.
Potentially more. I mean, he jacked up his knee.
Like when you read the laundry list of injuries there to his knee, I was like, he's going to be out for at least a year. Like the fact that they're saying 10 months is a little astounding to me because I thought the prognosis would be way longer than that for a recovery. But as we've seen with Dean Ambrose, you can get super jacked while you're recovering. So who knows? He might have quads of steel and thunder thighs by the time he's fully recovered.
Thunder thighs. Let's start that trending. Hashtag thunder thighs. Well, we want to wish Joey a quick, speedy recovery. Get back soon.
Yes.
All right, so are you ready to move on?
Yes. Get well soon, Joey Janela.
Yep. Okay, and our last news in the world of independent wrestling is Nick Aldis, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, is scheduled to be at a Ring of Honor TV show, or TV tapings, I'm sorry. And his opponent is the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, which that sounds incredible. Nico?
First up, I think between you and me, I'm the only one of us in terms of all of our wrestling friends who still says World's Heavyweight Championship in reference to the NWA title because that's what it says on the belt. So I'm just like, that's what they want to call it. So that's what I'm going to call it too.
Did I not say worlds?
No, you said world, and that's perfectly fine because it's basically what we're so used to in this day and age. But that belt is so classic that it still goes with like the possessive of the word. So it's one of those things.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the same card that Aldis and Daniel's going to be wrestling on is the same card that Cody versus Willie Mack for the World's Championship is going to be on the line.
So it's going to be more hyping for that eventual rematch at the NWA's 70th anniversary show, which is smart booking on Ring of Honor's part. And Christopher Daniels is a smart opponent to put up against Nick Aldis because, again, that fits more of like the history-making aspect. Now, granted, these guys, I'm sure, locked up at least once or twice while they were both in TNA.
I don't think so.
Well, we can check the record books later for that. But having said that, we have the guy who helped bring the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship back to prominence before dropping the title to Cody, of course, taking on, so far, I believe, the only Grand Slam champion in Ring of Honor history. I don't think anyone else in Ring of Honor so far has held the world, the television, the tag team, and the six-man tag team titles. At most, we've had maybe triple crowns, but Daniels so far, I believe, is the only Grand Slam champion.
Was Jay Briscoe ever TV champion?
I don't think he was.
Okay, because he's the only one I could think of that was like held at least 3 of the 4.
As of the last ROH episode I watched, Christopher Daniels is so far the only Grand Slam champion in ROH's history. And so, like, there's history right there just in terms of, like, look at what they've accomplished in their careers. And, you know, for Nick Aldis to get a win over someone like Christopher Daniels, that's a good way to build momentum going into the 70th anniversary show, going into that rematch with Cody after he beats Willie Mack, which we all kind of expect, although I wouldn't mind if Willie Mack somehow beat Cody. But
Willie Mack versus Nick Aldis.
But we know what the money fight is here. We know what the money fight is, and that's what they're going to go with. Is Cody still also the current 1/3 of the six-man tag championships, or did something happen with that? Because
I haven't watched Ring of Honor in a really long time, so
the last time I watched it was the one episode before All In. He and the Young Bucks had won the six-man tag championships under some controversial decisions by the referee. Whoever won the match pinned the wrong man, but they counted it anyway. So I don't know what happened there.
I'm looking it up right now.
But anyway, yeah, we should definitely be excited for.
Yep.
Oh, he still is.
Yeah, as of right now.
I kind of wish he would like wear both belts. Like, we know what the money belt is in this situation, but still, promote that tag team belt. Promote that six-man tag team belt you got on. Because, like, being a world champion while also holding the six-man title, that boosts the six-man title. Like, you don't have to just put all your attention on this one belt. You got another. Feel free to promote that one too.
Yep. So, the other matches on that card include Coast to Coast, which is LSG and Shaheem Ali challenging for the Ring of Honor tag team titles. You have Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham taking on Jushin Liger and Kushida. The Young Bucks versus Evil Sonata versus Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor versus either the Briscoes or Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, whichever team loses the tag title match at Death Before Dishonor. Marty Scurll versus Chris Sabin will be for the Ring of Honor TV Championship if Sabin defeats Punishment Martinez at Death Before Dishonor. And Kenny King versus Chase Owens.
Now, important to note, it says that these matches are going to happen at a set of Ring of Honor TV tapings, meaning plural. They're going to be multiple tapings on that day alone. I've been to a Ring of Honor taping, and they taped 4 episodes in the span of a couple hours. So,
Oh, wow.
so like, chances are we are not going to see. Chances are very likely, like, there's like a 0.01% chance of them all being somehow put onto the same televised episode. But yeah, basically they're going to be like breaking them down 2 or 3 matches per episode for as many episodes that they're taping. So like, chances are we might not see Nick Aldis versus Christopher Daniels on the same episode as Cody versus Willie Mack.
I kind of hope we do, though, because that'd be a good way to tie in the NWA show.
It would. I'm just saying there's a possibility that it won't be the case. For all we know, they could put the television title match on the same episode as Nick Aldis versus Christopher Daniels, and they could give a different undercard match for Cody versus Willie Mack.
Yeah. All right, so are you ready to move on?
Yes, let's get to Impact news.
All right, so I legit only could find 2 Impact Wrestling news. So apologize for it being kind of shortchanged. But on this week's Impact, we had a return of Tyra Valkyrie.
Taya Valkyrie. It's not Tyra.
Shit. You do it.
Taya Valkyrie. She returned to Impact this week, and she challenged Tessa Blanchard for a match at Bound for Glory. I'm assuming for the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Championship. Yep. So, obviously, I believe I don't remember. I haven't been keeping up with Impact, but I have been keeping up with behind-the-scenes stuff. And very recently, Taya got married to the man we know as Johnny Mundo, Johnny Impact, and
John Morrison, the man of like 1,000 names.
Real name John Hennigan. But yes, so I'm assuming the honeymoon is over, and now it's back to business for them both. And she is obviously coming back for the big prize. She wants that Impact Wrestling Knockouts Championship of the World. And Tessa Blanchard, we saw at All In that she is someone to watch out for. Taya, we've seen on Impact, on Lucha Underground, on everywhere else she's been.
Speaking of Lucha, are they still partnered up, like Impact and Lucha, so they can like talent exchange?
Yes, they might have had another Twitch show. I'm not entirely sure, but yes, they are still in a working relationship. As far as I know, that's how Brian Cage is able to go from one place to another.
And I'm guessing same with Johnny and Taya, right?
Yes. But yeah, we're like Bound for Glory. We saw with Slammiversary that they know that TNA, Impact Wrestling is back to putting on good shows, and they can easily do the same here with Bound for Glory. And this is a great match to put on the books for such a great event.
And I think in the main event of Bound for Glory, it's Johnny Impact taking on Austin Aries for the Impact Wrestling World Championship.
So we could potentially have a power couple by the end of Bound for Glory.
But as someone who has given up on Impact, I use the GWN network to go back and watch the 2018 Impact episodes that I've missed. And they have gotten much better now that Don Callis and why am I forgetting? Scott D'Amore have taken over.
Remind me again, Don Callis was the guy who used to like promote all the merchandise. Correct?
Yeah, he was, but also if you don't know who Don Callis is, he also was Cyrus in the original ECW. He was the network exec. He was also in WWE for a little bit. He worked like behind the scenes for all 3 major organizations, including WCW for a little bit.
Oh, cool. So he has the promoter's mind. He has the writer's mind, and he can make things happen. So, and he's obviously making things happen right here. Such as with our next bit of news, which is Impact Wrestling will be holding TV tapings in Las Vegas. Now, Impact, we've seen in the past that they love going to Canada, they love going to Mexico, they love going to the UK. They've tried to branch out into India, and so like at one point they were even traveling around the country here in the States and making do with that when they had the budget to do it. Whenever the budget didn't call for it, they would go back to Florida. And then I think they eventually moved to Canada to do regular shows when the budget no longer called for being able to do stuff in Florida. Because if we remember from our knowledge of the Arrowverse, Canada gives tax breaks for various show tapings. So
Yeah.
this was a place where Impact could build themselves back up on a budget that worked for them. And now they're trying Las Vegas, which is the city that never sleeps. There's a wrestling audience there. There's a fight audience there. The sports entertainment has a strong foundation in that area, and they can definitely put on some good shows there.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And the reason I have this as like a big news topic is because this shows that Impact is heading towards the right direction of being global. Because, as you said, they've been to Mexico, they've been to the UK, they've been to India, they've been here in the US. But what people don't realize is they've mostly taped in Florida, in Orlando at the Universal Studios lot. So for them to be like, hey, we're going to go to Las Vegas, the big fight capital city, that shows growth of the Impact name, and that Impact is really becoming the alternative it was back in the day. This is something for, if you're tired of WWE, you can watch Impact and be happy with it.
And that's basically what TNA started out as. It was the alternative to WWE, and before they brought in all the WCW guys from that span between 2008 and 2011, they were on the right track, and now they're going back to their roots, and they're back in a stable position where they can do everything they wanted to do, but weren't able to do for the longest time after guys like Hogan and Bischoff left. So they're in a good spot. Where they've been primarily based lately is apparently out of the question, is debatable between you and me. I think it's Canada now, but it was Orlando, Florida then. We'll have to double check that later.
I think you're right, but for a little while there, they were exclusively in Florida.
That's undisputable. It's just a matter of where have they been lately, and I believe I believe they moved operations to Canada because
that worked out great for them.
Oh, it did. It did. So where they are currently based is unknown to us, but the fact that they're retrying going from place to place to place and becoming a traveling operation again. That is good news for Impact Wrestling.
I'm just glad that Impact Wrestling is becoming an alternative again, and that people are wanting to watch it and support it, because as someone who is and was a TNA fan, I would watch that more than Monday Night Raw on occasions. But I'm glad that they're having more mature storylines and bringing in some of the top indie workers in the business right now.
It's living up to the potential that we knew it always had, and it's putting focus on the workhorse guys, which is what the appeal was of it. Like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels competing for the X Division title in the main event, as opposed to the typical heavyweight title being the main event matches. They've gone back to that in a way with Austin Aries, someone who the WWE looked at as a cruiserweight and someone who was basically the face of the X Division for the longest time, him being the heavyweight champion. He is someone that TNA has been able to rely on when they needed someone to carry the ball back into the hoop over and over and over again. And we've seen what they've done with Brian Cage, with Eddie Edwards, with
Lucha Brothers.
Yes, with the Lucha Brothers, with Moose, with Ali. They know what they're doing again, and it's showing.
And that shows, I keep going to it, but it shows the minds of Don Callis and Scott D'Amore. Like, they know the wrestling business inside and out, and they know especially what makes Impact unique, and they're really going towards that market instead of focusing on all the WCW, ex-WWE guys. They're focusing on the future.
And here's another thing. Like, a lot of the guys that Impact has currently on their roster, they have some kind of some of them have gripes with WWE in a way. For Austin Aries, it was that he didn't feel like they were using him properly. In the case of Tessa Blanchard, she doesn't have any personal beef with them, but they did. But she and Ricochet had a bad breakup, so that's
that's right.
So that's kind of why Ricochet went one way and she went another way, and it doesn't look like she's going to be on WWE's priority hiring list anytime soon, because they don't want any animosity backstage.
Yeah.
And guys like Brian Cage, he's done so well on the indie scene that there's no reason for him to go to WWE. Same with
Brian Cage. It's like the Young Bucks and the Bullet Club. They made so much money outside of the WWE that there would be no reason for them to go.
And Matt Sydal, we know why he can't go back. It's because he likes recreational fun. Yes. But
are you ready?
Yeah, let's
to our pay-per-view review of the week. Tell them what it is, Nico.
All right. We went back to a classic.
Yeah, we did.
WCW Halloween Havoc 1993.
Yes, that was main evented by Big Van Vader taking on Cactus Jack in something they called Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal.
And what the wheel spun on was the weirdest match I've ever heard of in terms of rules.
Have you not seen a match like this?
I
could have sworn TNA did a few of them.
If they did, I missed them. But yeah, like the list of rules for this match, like
WCW added a few extra rules that weren't supposed to be there, but we'll get there eventually.
Like like you mentioned TNA, I'm aware that the King of the Mountain match had some unusual rules, but this one, this one is a strange one. This one's a strange one.
So this comes from the Lakefront Arena in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Perfect place for Halloween.
Yes, and the date was October 24th, 1993. So the card opens up with the pay-per-view opens up with a weird, like movie Goosebumps opening with Tony Schiavone and 3 kids.
Yeah. So I have a couple notes here on that segment. First off, the brother was a gigantic asshole.
Yes.
Yeah, like one quote I have is sisters who brought her. Like he was just so annoyed with his sister. And I'm like, you're a shitty sibling. You realize that you're not putting your best foot forward in terms of your first TV appearance, if that's your first TV appearance. And so they're like debating on what should be the final house they trick or treat at, and they're going into the backstory of like asshole brother over here. He has every year he picks the worst house to finish off trick or treating with. And like the year before, they apparently got fruitcake.
Who gives out fruitcake for Halloween?
I don't know. Someone with a very strong sense of humor, or someone who's really ready for Christmas to start. But so brother, he depicts a house that didn't look haunted, but it was a big one. It was a big one, and it looked like someone with a lot of money lived there. And they go to knock on the door, and it's Tony Schiavone. And first, and the kids are like, Tony Schiavone?
Which, by the way, you should preface this by saying the sister wanted to get home in time to watch WCW Halloween Havoc, which is something a little sister had never said.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
Let's skip off of the free candy. WCW is on. Wrestling is on.
Oh, I don't doubt that a little sister was like, let's go watch wrestling. It's just maybe this specific pay-per-view of Halloween Havoc. Yeah, I doubt anyone was in a serious hurry to go see that. Also, and I just thought this, you mentioned that this pay-per-view was on October 24th, 1993.
Yeah.
Trick-or-treating usually doesn't start until like the weekend closest to Halloween. So if this is October 24th, then trick-or-treating might have likely been on either the 29th, the 30th, or Halloween night itself, the 31st. So already there's a hole in that story right there. But basically, they go to knock on this house. Tony Schiavone apparently owns it, and that's another thing I have a note for is if Tony Schiavone lived in your neighborhood, wouldn't you know about it?
In question, I didn't think he made enough money to afford a house like that.
Yeah, like I doubt Ted Turner was paying him that much money that he could afford that type of living. Like maybe an above middle class, but not super upper middle class house. But yeah, that was like high six-figure status right there that he was living in. But anyway, so the kids, for some reason, go into his house. That's not how trick-or-treating works. You're supposed to get candy and leave. You're not supposed
that was creepy. He was like, oh, it's my wife baking cookies. You want a cookie? Like that? Dude, you are telling 3 children to come in your house to get cookies. That shit would not fly today.
Like, that's how Hansel and Gretel got cooked. That's how isn't that how the fairy tale ends? Is they shove the witch into the oven and save themselves. Yes. But yeah, basically the witch's plan was to bake them. So yeah, Tony Schiavone, he basically commits kidnapping.
Technically the kids came in on their own, but
okay, he seduced children. They come into the house under false pretenses. He then takes his face. Yeah. What?
Cookies. That was a good reason. Cookies. And
that is why creepy people use white vans and candy to lure children. Yes. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So Tony Schiavone, he somehow gets up to the stairs really fast, and the kids even mention that. Like, how did you get up there? You were just down here a moment ago. And I can't remember the explanation. But anyway, he tries to scare them. It doesn't work. He then takes what?
He says anything is possible on All Hallows Eve.
Lame. But he takes his face off. There's a monster underneath the face.
Not the Nick Cage movie.
The kids are trying to get out of the house. They can't get the door open for whatever reason. And then when they do finally get the door open, it's just a puff of smoke into this alternate dimension. So we don't know if those kids actually survived.
No, those kids died.
Yes. A monster impersonating Tony Schiavone ate the kids, and they were never heard from again.
I apologize for our listeners because that was a very confusing opening, and yeah, it's the exact same thing if you watch it live. It's weird.
But yeah, the portal to the other dimension takes us right to Halloween Havoc.
Wait, before we move on, I want like WWE to do that today for their promo packages. Just have like a mini story going on to open up the card.
Just with no kidnapping and luring children into creepy houses.
Yes. Or if you're gonna do that, at least use the B team. And and have kids like cheering the BP.
You know what? I just thought of something. If they ever do another House of Horrors match, I want a pizza guy to show up at the door while the match is going on.
Is Bo Dallas?
Not Bo Dallas, but I want someone to ring the doorbell, and right as whoever's beating up Bray Wyatt inside that house, they hear the doorbell, they go to check the door, and it's just a pizza guy who's so confused as to what's going on.
Why the hell am I in the backwoods in Louisiana?
And why is there a limo parked for whatever reason?
Okay, let's move on.
Yes. Okay, so we get to Halloween Havoc through that portal to the other dimension, which the kids did not get through because they died. And Eric Bischoff is dressed as General Custer, and he's doing the intros for the match.
Tony Schiavone is dressed up as
Jesse the Body Ventura, who's sitting right next to him.
And I believe he's dressed up as a doctor, so it's really weird.
Yeah, and I believe Jesse's explanation for what his costume was he was dressed like Bourbon Street's #1 gynecologist. You talk while the phone finishes ringing on my end.
All right, so we kick off the night with a 6-man tag team match. Okay, a 6-man tag team match as Ice Train, Charlie Norris, and the Shock Master, not in the Stormtrooper mask, by the way, takes on Harlem Heat, which is Booker T and Stevie Ray, or as they were going by, Cole and Kane, and the Equalizer. The match ends with the Shockmaster power slamming Booker T to win the match. Didn't watch this one. Couldn't tell you what happened in the match. Don't really fucking care. Nico?
So I have a couple notes on this match, and they're all just like really funny questions that I have because we weren't alive at this point in time. So WCW was in a weird place while we weren't alive. And so some of the questions I asked was, who the fuck is the Equalizer? Why does he look like an inflated Jake Roberts? Someone just took an air pump to Jake Roberts and just didn't know when to stop. And what is his relation to Harlem Heat? Like, is it just because they're heels at this point in time?
I have another question. Why was Harlem Heat's names Cole and Kane?
I didn't even recognize that. I didn't hear them call them Cole and Kane. I thought they were still going by Stevie Ray and Booker at that time.
Cole and Kane.
Well, that's another question that will
For
go
some reason.
So in terms of what happened in the actual match, we had Ice Train and Booker. I don't know whether he was Cole or Kane, but they started the match.
Cole.
And Ice Train was basically dominating the match using his power. Couple tags. Stevie gets tagged in and he goes on offense, but Ice Train, he regains momentum and tags in Charlie Norris, which the whole time Charlie Norris was performing, I was just thinking, this guy's name is dangerously close to Chuck Norris. But he looks like an Indian that Chuck Norris probably would have fought and beat up in Walker, Texas Ranger.
That's true, actually.
Yes. So Booker T comes back in. Norris continues to dominate. More stuff happens. Shockmaster gets tagged in, continues to beat on Booker. Norris gets tagged back in, followed by Ice Train with a bit of targeting to the left shoulder of Booker. More stuff happens. And I stopped writing notes after that to actually focus on the match as a whole. At one point, Equalizer was no-selling Norris, and then Shockmaster gets tagged back in, and Equalizer sold that stuff. He sold Shockmaster's shoulder tackles for sure. And then the match ends with Shockmaster doing a bear hug into a drop. Now, I don't know if I don't know if I saw the move correctly, but from what I saw, Shockmaster had the bear hug, and then he just like dropped to his knees. And I thought that was the shock of the landing while being stuck in the bear hug supposed to
The
be?
Shock Master.
Is that supposed to be the death blow to either Booker or Stevie, whoever he did the finisher on? Because you said power slam something. Did I see the move wrong? But no, I'm thinking it was just like bear hug, knee drop, and then down. And so
Yeah, this match wasn't good.
and the finisher, one of the weirdest finishers I've ever seen.
So rate the match out of 4 stars.
1.5.
I'm gonna give it a 1.
I mean, there were botches, but I'm going to be at least generous with it because, Booker T and Stevie, I've always been a fan of their kicking offense. I like getting opportunities to see more of them and their ability to use it. So I'll be positive with this match because at least it gave me some good comedic material to work with.
Yeah, true. All right, next match was.
Before that, there was a backstage segment.
Oh, was there?
Yeah, so the guys at the commentary desk were explaining how there were going to be 2 refs for the Rude versus Flair match later on. And one of the refs was Terry Taylor. And so yeah, the Red Rooster, although not the Red Rooster at that time. So I believe it was Bischoff who was talking to him backstage. And so Terry Taylor was basically saying, I am doing this because I want to make up for past transgressions, past wrongdoings of mine, because now I'm in a position where I can call things down the middle and I can do justice in the ring where the other referee might not be able to. So interesting reasoning, especially considering this is at a time again where we weren't born, so we don't really know what transgressions Terry Taylor committed. I'm just assuming he was a bad guy at one point while he was doing a heel role, which is basically the thing every wrestler does at some point in their career.
So yeah, moving on to the second match, which was for some reason Ricky the Dragon Steamboat taking on Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
Yeah, so I've actually not seen a full Ricky Steamboat match or a full Paul Orndorff match before this one.
You haven't watched him and Macho Man?
No, because my reasoning is that I'm afraid it won't live up to the hype because there have been so many great matches since that time period of wrestling that I'm afraid that when I watch that match between him and Steamboat, it's just gonna be like meh because we've seen so many great matches in the years after that.
Look it up tonight. It's really that good.
All right. But yeah, Paul Orndorff was accompanied by the Assassin.
The Assassin.
I'm not sure who that was under the mask. It kind of looked a little bit like Paul Bearer for whatever reason. At least if you shrunk Paul Bearer a little bit, it had the facial structure underneath the mask.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. And Ricky Steamboat came out dressed like a dragon. Appropriate for Halloween, appropriate for his character. I liked the wings. I liked the torch. I liked that he breathed fire. It was fun for me.
Yeah. This match was okay. But I found there was a lot of botches, especially when it comes to roll-ups. That's when you could tell the botches were happening.
Yeah, it looked like I'm hearing an echo on your end from me.
Hello.
It's testing. Okay, I think we're good. So yeah, it just felt like these guys were maybe like 1 second to 2 seconds off in their calibration of movements. I think they went to do like a double cross body. Like one guy was jumping, the other guy was jumping, and I think one of them hit the knees as opposed to the stomach. So yeah, everyone it just seemed like they were off for a lot of their movements. I don't know if this particular move was meant to happen the way it did or not, but at one point in the match, Steamboat gets Orndorff with the wildest arm drag I've ever seen. Like he went flying. He got so much air from just that arm to arm connection, almost spinning like a tornado. And like I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it definitely added to the intrigue. But yeah, there was a lot of in terms of the good stuff that happened. There was a lot of fighting on the floor, which helped sell the story. Like these the match ended in a very classical way. In that it ended in a time limit draw. Specifically,
this is the one that ended in count out.
I'm sorry. I completely read my notes wrong. Yeah, this match ended in count out via a loaded headbutt by the assassin. A loaded headbutt. The assassin put something in his mask, and then that knocked out Ricky Steamboat. He could not answer the count of 10, and yeah, Paul Orndorff was victorious in this match. Now I'm wondering what was in the mask that could knock out Ricky Steamboat, but not also knock out the assassin from.
I know, right?
Yeah, like I'm assuming when you have a loaded glove, it'll hurt your hand too to an extent, because you're the one throwing the punch. You're the one who has the load in it. So like, obviously you're gonna knock out the dude you punch, but still it might hurt your hand a little bit. So I'm
for a loaded headbutt. I mean, what was in there that would knock him out, but not knock the assassin out?
And like, we didn't see anything in the mask. We didn't see any indentations or anything that would suggest what kind of object was in there. So for all we know, he could have just basically just like slid his hand in the mask, pretended he put something in there, and then
all right. I have a theory. He's Samoan.
Oh God, that old Samoan headbutt stereotype.
All right, let's move on to what I think was the match of the night, which was Lord Steven Regal, William Regal himself, defending the WCW World Television Championship against the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. This is the one that ended in the 15-minute draw.
Yes. So first off, interesting to note that Lord Steven Regal's valet was named Sir William. Obviously, William would eventually be the new first name of Regal when he moved on to a different promotion. Michael Buffer was in the house.
That's the weird thing about the show. Like, they would use Michael Buffer for one match and then not use it for another one.
I think they specifically saved him for the title matches and the main event. Maybe not even the main event, but yeah, for any time we saw a belt on the line, he was there. I was just like, wow, they got Michael Buffer. That's awesome. And Davey Boy Smith was super over for this match. Like, the crowd loved him. And obviously his work shows why. Like, he was doing moves that I don't think anyone else outside of maybe Lucha Libre was doing at that time. His ability to kip up, his flips, his high power offense, like he had the whole package. And I'll let you talk about the actual match itself, but I do want to mention that the match itself started off with Regal basically bitching about how much oil was on Smith's body, and he was like, I don't want to touch this oily peasant. How dare you, sir?
Regal's work, like his character work in this match was perfect. it was that old, like, snotty, like, royal Englishman character that Regal just, like, it's all in the facial features, like his expressions. Regal has the best expressions in wrestling because you can tell what he's going through his expressions. Where he's like, I don't want to touch him, and he has like that disgusted look on his face at the beginning of the match. Just brilliant. The match started out, I was surprised because it started out with Davey Boy Smith really chain wrestling with Regal. It was a slow start with them both doing, kind of ground maneuvers. David Boy Smith not really using his power, but using more of his technician side. And that's what I love, about this match is that it started off so slow. It wasn't a high, fast, heavy matchup, but Regal wanted to slow down the pace of the match. And that's what worked so well about this match is that, and also the fact that it went 15 minutes and I was never bored.
I think it's safe to say that a lot of the matches on this card started off slow, sans maybe the main event, because that one started off quick. But they like for the rest of these matches, they did the slow build up to going faster as the match went on. And for this match in particular, it worked very well to the advantage of both competitors. It drew the intrigue. They're throwing everything at the kitchen sink at each other as it got closer to when the bell was going to ring. And you could see that as the match was closing, desperation was growing on Davey Boy Smith's face. He was trying everything he could. And the ending to this match was perfect because Davey Boy Smith gets a pile driver on Steven Regal, and as he gets the pile driver,
it's like 10 seconds.
Yeah, you hear the announcer counting down the clock to the final bell. So like he hits the pile driver at let's say maybe 3.5.
No, it was 6.
Okay. Well, the official count by the ref, he finally got into position to count to 3 right as the clock was at 2.5, let's say.
Yeah.
So when the ref counts 1, we're already down to 2. When the ref counts 2, we're already down to 1, and the ref is about to count 3, but 0 comes just right before it. Yeah, and that's the way you end a match on a draw. Like everything about this match was just perfect.
All right, so we didn't give a rating for the last match, did we?
Do we need to?
No. So rate this match.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
3.5. Yeah, I can definitely accept that. Yeah, I'm giving it a 3.5 also. So next we move on to my second favorite match of the night.
Well, there was another backstage segment, just real quick. This is where Vader would spin the wheel.
Oh, yes, that's correct. The spin the wheel, make the deal.
Yes, and he landed on...
Well, first, let's say a few of the matches that were on there. Like you had a bull rope match. You had a last man standing, I quit tables match, I think.
I didn't keep track of what was on the wheel. So based on your memory, do you remember if this is being WCW, was anything on a pole?
No, which was weird because I wanted to be like, I don't know, like fucking Socko on a pole match.
Well, that was before Socko's time, but but yeah, the wheel spins the entire time. I'm looking at the wrong part of the wheel. I'm thinking,
Same.
the dial is at the top of the wheel. No, it's at the right. It's on the right-hand side. So I see something that they're saying is something entirely different, and then I look to my right and I'm like, oh, there's the pin. It's death match. Okay. Okay. And
Texas death match.
in my head, I was thinking, wait a minute. Because I was thinking of the entire wrong pay-per-view. I thought this was going to be the night where Vader and Cactus Jack had that electric chair match. So I was thinking of the wrong pay-per-view as they were spinning the wheel. So yeah, that was a pleasant surprise for me.
But yeah, so the match, the main event tonight will be Cactus Jack versus Big Van Vader in a Texas death match.
And for some reason, Vader's WCW World Championship is not on the line in that match.
Which is so weird because we had technically a world title match on this card.
Yes, for the WCW International World Heavyweight Championship, as in like WCW International.
Wasn't it the exact same belt?
I don't know. I do recall seeing at one point in time the unification match between Flair and Sting for the world and the international world heavyweight titles, and yeah, they would merge those two titles together at some point. But yeah, just the introduction of like, okay, we have WCW the promotion, and then we have an international body run by WCW, and that is the world title of that. It's just it's weird, and I feel sad for any children who were like didn't understand how corporations worked and were just struggling to figure out why is that belt there. But
who is the champion?
Why are there two big gold belts, and why are they basically the same thing except for the word international being
international is in there for some reason. All right, so let's move on to my second favorite match of the night for the WCW United States Championship. As champion, the natural Dustin Rhodes, not Goldust, Dustin Rhodes takes on stunning Steve Austin.
Yeah. This is when Steve Austin was billed as being from Hollywood, California, as part of the Hollywood Blondes.
Austin in his documentary says something fun. He was like, strong Texas accent, but hell yeah, I'm from Hollywood, California.
Wrestling logic. Let's just believe. So I didn't get to write as many notes when this match was taking place because I was making a sandwich at the time. But yeah, this match was fun. Austin is a good heel. And it showed a lot in this match, specifically at one point in the match, he distracted the ref and kicked Dustin Rhodes right in the groin, I also started a massive slap fight. He's beating up Dustin Rhodes, and then he's just like to add insult to injury, he's just throwing slap after slap after slap, basically Minoru Suzuki style, and he held nothing back. And then Dustin Rhodes' retaliation is just do the typical right hand that doesn't actually connect, but he still sells it anyway. So I'm just like, you could have thrown a slap and nobody would have been upset with you if you did.
Yeah.
He's obviously hitting you hard here.
The only reason that this match isn't my favorite of the night is because of the ending.
Yeah, I'm reading the ending in my notes right now. Austin gets the 3 count, but the ref realizes late that Austin's feet were on the ropes, so he doesn't call it. Then Rhodes gets a roll-up. 1, 2, 3.
After Austin was trying to look for the U.S. title.
Yeah, so like Rhodes retains, but Austin grabs the title, hits Rhodes with it. Rhodes is bleeding on the floor, and then Austin walks away.
With the belt.
Yes, he walks away with the belt. But still, despite all that, the work was there. The chemistry was there. These guys know how to go, and they showed it. And, yeah, great match.
All right, so I'm going to give this match I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 4.
I gave the television title match a 3.5, and I believe you did the same. But yeah, just because.
I think they're right on par for me.
So, because the ending was a little bit wonky, I'm gonna give it a 3.45. Just like 0.05 percentage points off.
Yep. All right. So next we have the WCW World Tag Team Championships as a weird team of Marcus Alexander Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio defend the tag team titles against the Nasty Boys. I didn't watch this match in full, so you take over.
Oh dear Lord! So as I was watching this match, I was also paying attention to the fallout from the Brett Kavanaugh hearings from yesterday. So my mind was kind of split, and also there's a million things going on in the house today. So yeah, my focus was very divided as I was watching this match. So what I have written down is that Marcus Bagwell didn't get a graphic when Michael Buffer was introducing everybody. They accidentally gave him Too Cold Scorpio's graphic and then never bothered to fix that. So Marcus got the cold shoulder there. The match, before the bell officially rang, there was an attempted double team attack by the Nasty Boys with the championship belts. The champions countered and hit them with the belts. And then Missy Hyatt, who was the valet for the Nasty Boys, Marcus Bagwell non-consensually kisses her. So I'm just like...
It kind of makes sense of his career now, but...
So, yeah, just for like... As I'm paying attention to all these things going on at once, we're talking about a supposed Supreme Court, a potential Supreme Court nominee who supposedly did some very bad things in college. And then here we have the eventual stripper known as Buff Bagwell non-consensually kissing a valet. It was just a weird...
Not a male stripper. She's a juggalo.
What exactly is the difference? I forget at the moment.
There's not really a difference. Except one, I believe, is... Let's not even try to get into this.
Okay. So, from what I remember, the main story of this match was the Nasty Boys did a great job of isolating Bagwell and not letting Too Cold Scorpio get tagged in. Now, Bagwell did actually tag Too Cold on a few occasions, but the ref just never saw it on any of those occasions because he was busy dealing with some sort of distraction. So every time Too Cold Scorpio was brought into the match, the ref said, no, you're not the legal man. Get out of here. And so that just leaves Bagwell to take more punishment. What is going on outside? Just ignore that. But yeah, Bagwell is just taking blow after blow after blow from the Nasty Boys. And then at some point, the Nasty Boys screw up. And that allows Bagwell, while they're distracted, to tag in Too Cold. And he comes in, finally, off that hot tag with one of the most unique offenses I've seen. He basically did a running man style of a front kick where he just, where it was like, imagine if you spammed someone to just hit the kick over and over and over again. It was just like front kick. I wish a lot of MMA fighters would do that. Just spam front kicks rather than load up and go for the power shot. But yeah.
Of UFC fighters, it reminds me of Travis Brown just front kicking the dude in the face until he fell.
But even then, Travis Brown, he would like wait in between throwing those kicks. Like Too Cold, he didn't waste any time. It was like... It was like he was doing a speed drill on the Nasty Boys' stomachs, and then he just went to the top rope a lot. He did a beautiful moonsault, and he tried to finish the match off with his patented 450 splash. Again, the ref got distracted. That allowed the Nasty Boys to break up the pin, and they steal back the titles. I wanted to watch this match one more time before we started recording this, just because I felt like I was missing so much, and it seemed like this match was actually really good, and I wanted to get the full effect of it. But oh well. I'll give it a 2.5 to be fair to the fact that I didn't watch it in full. So I'm saying my thoughts on it are more positive.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, so I can't really rate it. All right, so next, did we have a segment after this?
Well, there was a Sid promo where he was like talking really low and then suddenly started screaming at the top of his lungs, saying,
saying what the ruler of the world.
And saying how he was going to take Sting by the throat, just lift him up in the air, 10 feet in the air, and just slam him down into the depths of hell. No, that's Kane, but you get the idea of where that promo was going.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that leads into Sting versus Sid Vicious.
I just want to state that every time they said that Sid, the ruler of the world, was taking on the franchise player, my mind kept going to Shane Douglas because
the franchise Shane Douglas.
Yeah, so when they said Sting, I'm like, wait, what? And it threw me off for a second, but then I realized, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Sting is the franchise player of WCW.
Yeah.
It's just like my mind has been programmed to think of one thing when you say the franchise, and it brought me there. So, yeah, Sid, I don't recall if he got an official entrance to the ring.
He did.
Okay.
He was accompanied by Colonel Robert Parker.
Wait, Colonel Robert Parker?
Yes, that's his name.
Oh, we got to show that to Robert later on.
and no, it was not our little hobbit.
Yeah, but like just the idea of someone named Robert Parker, just like Colonel Sanders, when we know someone else who named Robert Parker, it's just we got to show him that later. He'll have a good chuckle about that, or he'll be like, okay, moving on. Where's my Lord of the Rings DVD?
No, he's gonna be like, fuck you guys.
Why can't I be that tall?
Yes, I legit looked it up, and yes, he was known as Colonel Robert Parker.
I'm gonna have Robert on for around the league this weekend, so I'm just gonna call him Colonel, and he'll have no idea what I'm talking about.
Just bring up the phone and be like, "Is this you, little hobbit?"
Oh, he's gonna hate us. He's gonna.
All right, move on.
Yes.
We love you, Robert.
And then Sting comes out, face paint and all, bleach blonde hair. I can't tell if he was trying to sport a mullet, but for like the back of his head, the hair on the back of his head was like thicker than the rest, but not super long. So I'm like, what is he going for here? I wasn't totally sure. But yeah, the match starts. I believe Sting got distracted by Colonel Robert Parker, and then Sid jumps him from behind, and then you can take it from here.
So I remember a bit about this match. I remember Sid really dominating the match, and then Sting coming back towards the end. He did live up to his chokeslam 7 feet. He ends up Sid ends up chokeslamming Sting. Sting kicks out, and then I don't remember that much after this. The only thing I do remember is, for some odd reason, Parker tripped up Sid during a pinfall attempt.
Yeah,
that you can tell the difference between the two.
Yeah, that's where the match sort of ended. Was Sid was going for a pinfall on Sting. For whatever reason, Parker, in a moment of confusion, grabbed Sid's boot, trying to pull him off, I guess thinking it was Sting he was pulling on. Sid is pissed off, about to murder Colonel Robert Parker, and then Sting Did you get him with a roll up?
Yes.
You get him with a roll up. 1, 2, 3.
And then Sting jumps out of the ring from the middle of the ring to the outside.
Yeah, he basically just like hightails it from there because a pissed off Sid is not a Sid you want to deal
What
with.
is up with the roll ups on this show? I've noticed like there was a lot of roll up attempts.
I think that's one of the drawbacks of this specific pay-per-view is that you just feel like everything blended together a little too much to the point that it's hard to say there was a standout performance and there weren't a lot of like high spots that you can really talk about, hence why we're focusing on things like Ricky Steamboat's tornado arm drag from hell and
tornado arm drag from hell
and Colonel Robert Parker grabbing the wrong person's leg. Not a lot of like high impact finishing maneuvers or high spots that you can really.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and maybe a second viewing of the show will change our minds.
In the Steven Regal versus British Bulldog, the moment I liked was the referee going down for the 1 and the 2, and then time running out.
Oh well, that's a spot to look for there. But for the rest of the pay-per-view, it just felt like a lot of stuff blended in too much, and it just had that weird WCW stank of let's do the controversial thing instead of just go for the happy go home moment.
Yeah. So after this match, we go into the WCW International Heavyweight Championship match as the champion ravishing Rick Rude, and I actually have it in my notes. Rick Rude as world champion ? Taking on the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. I did not know that Rick Rude was a world champion.
Again, this apparently was maybe the first pay-per-view where they officially recognized the big gold belt as a world heavyweight title, specifically the WCW International Board of Directors or whatever the hell, the wrestling association comprised of various countries where they would wrestle in. They said this is an official world title. Rick Rude holds that title and therefore is the champion.
Technically, in the record books, Rick Rude was a WCW world champion.
Yeah. So one thing, I have a couple notes listed here. For one, Jesse Ventura making awful sexual innuendos regarding Phoebe. Got the sweeping the floor on her knees. Why, Jesse? Why did you have to go there?
I was like, this was the 90s, but.
And again, I'm watching this as I'm also watching recaps of one of the weirdest Supreme Court hearings of all time.
Him saying that is the exact same way I feel listening to Jerry Lawler's commentary during the 90s.
Oh yeah, Jerry Lawler, that man.
He pushed the limits.
Oh, he did, and it like in today's climate, if he said those things, he'd be fired in a second.
And then there's one that Ventura says to Schiavone. He was like, "Can she sweep your floors?"
And I'm just now remembering Minnesota elected Jesse Ventura governor at one point. So these words obviously did not bother them.
Well, no, because I don't know if back then does WCW have people backstage telling them what to say, but
okay, moving on. So Michael Buffer does the official intros. For whatever reason, Ric Flair got fireworks from the above the stage, no less. So I'm like, isn't this a little dangerously close to the audience to have pyrotechnics?
Jesse Ventura with the call of the night. All that for a challenger?
I was thinking the same thing, but also, again, this is really close to the people in the audience. Are you not afraid of burning them? But yeah, let's go into the actual match.
The match itself was. Oh, sorry, you froze up a little bit.
I'm back now. I'm back now. So let's get into the actual match.
Go ahead.
You start and I'll pick up.
Okay, so the match really was about Flair targeting the knees of Rick Rude, setting up for the figure four leg lock and all that stuff. So
and the targeting specifically started when Rude, I believe, was going for a top rope one-footed stomp, and on the landing he missed and tweaked. Kayfabe tweaked his knee, and from then on, Ric Flair was basically like a shark that smelled blood in the water when it came to that knee. He targeted that knee like there was no tomorrow, and from then on, the big answer Rude had for everything Ric Flair was going after him with was, how can I cheat? How can I cheat? Which is how Terry Taylor affected into the match as the second referee. Like, at one, like, Rude had his hands on the rope at one point going for a leverage pin, and Taylor knocks those hands right off the rope. At one point when they were
on that too, because like it seemed like he wasn't even hitting Rude's arm, but like Rude like held on after like 4 or 5 shots from Taylor to tell him let go.
Yeah, and then at one point, Rude and Flair were fighting on the outside, and Rude was going to use a chair. Again, Taylor stops him from using the chair. And Jesse Ventura, you hear him on commentary, he's basically saying, let them have at it, let them have at it. This is not a Minoru Suzuki match where the rules go out the window. Like WCW, as weird as their rules were, they liked enforcing those rules.
Mm-hmm.
So
sometimes a little too much.
Yes. So Terry Taylor was basically just doing his job. Rude was doing his best to work between the rules. Excuse me. And as Flair is getting close to winning, Rude, I believe, escapes a figure four. He attacks both refs. He goes after the main ref first, and then he decks Terry Taylor as Terry Taylor is about to fill in for the already downed ref. And again, it shows the weird wrestling logic that comes with when you are wearing a referee shirt that somehow makes you more vulnerable to pain and suffering. Because like one shot is all it took for a wrestler of the caliber of Terry Taylor to go down. Because of that referee shirt. It's like a power dampener. It's like kryptonite.
Yeah.
So Rude handles the business there, and he tries to cheat Ric Flair again. Ric Flair, he pulls some brass knucks, and he decks Rude. Terry Taylor didn't see it, but the other ref, as he was coming to on the outside, he apparently did see it. So Flair successfully punches Rude with the brass knucks, hides them. Terry Taylor gets back in the ring, counts at 1, 2. I think he got to 3, but I'm not sure. But basically, the other ref, he stops Terry Taylor from declaring the match over. The other ref says he saw Flair use brass knucks. Flair is DQ'd. Rude is given the win. Flair on the outside is parading with the title. Meanwhile, Rude kidnaps Fifi and is about to take her backstage to do Lord knows what. And Flair stops Rude, gets him in the figure four. Somehow Rude beats him up. I think maybe hit him with. Did he hit him with the belt? I'm not sure, but yeah, he breaks up. He breaks up the figure four. Flair is wounded on the stage. Rude takes the title back and walks away as the victor by DQ. And then we finally get to the main event.
Rate this match out of 4 stars first.
2.75.
All right, I'm going to give it 2.9. All right, so our main event, the Texas Death Match, not for the heavyweight title for some reason, as Big Van Vader takes on Cactus Jack. So explain the rules of a Texas Death Match according to WCW.
Well, if you have the rules explained to WCW, you can read them, and then I'll read you what my summary of those rules were, in my opinion.
Okay, so WCW's version of the Texas Death Match is, well, I'm going to sum it up the way I know how. You pin your opponent, but the pins do not count as a win. Then you get a 30-second break, and then you get a 10 count. And if the person isn't up in 40 seconds, they win.
And basically, my summary of this match was, falls don't count, but it's falls count anywhere, but you need a fall, and then 30 additional seconds for the actual last man standing rules to kick in.
Well, I think they meant falls don't count towards a win.
No, I'm giving you my joke summary of the rules.
Now, TNA had it right because they had a few Texas Death Matches where they didn't have a 30-second rest period. It was literally, okay, you knock your opponent down and you pin him, right then and there the count starts.
Which is why the King of the Mountain match was good, because it knew that weird rest period didn't work, because you get pinned in a King of the Mountain match, you go straight to the penalty box, and you sit there for the specific time allotted. With here, it just seemed weird to give them that rest, and then after given that rest, they get an extra 10 seconds, and if you
look at it, they have 40 seconds to get up.
Yeah, but in the name deathmatch, I guess that makes sense, because if you can't get up in 40 seconds, you're basically dead.
But let's get into the actual match itself. The match itself, I thought, was really entertaining. The one spot I remember is Vader and Cactus Jack are fighting on the ramp, and Cactus knocks Vader through, it looks like a trap door, and then right above it says, "Rest in peace, Big Van Vader."
Yes, so they took advantage of what they had on the set, and they had obviously set that up to promote the fact that, hey, it's Halloween. Here's a gravestone with Vader's name on it, and Vader falls into his own grave. Cactus Jack kind of follows him in. This was,
the referee said, "I'm not going in there to make the pin," which is just funny.
I believe this spot was maybe midway through the match, and the start of the match was already super fast paced.
Yeah.
Which is a big turnaround compared to all the other matches we had seen on this card, and that's why it stands out. The spot I remember is at one point when they took the fight to the floor after it had been on the stage. Vader was on the outside with the audience behind the guardrail, and Cactus Jack tried to do some sort of flipping maneuver in which he was going to jump over the guardrail, and once he got over, I guess his body was going to take Vader down, but he completely missed on the flip, and it just went back first into the concrete floor. So I'm just was that a botch, or was that supposed to happen? I don't know, but it entertained me. And it just shows you, this is why Mick Foley is as beat up as he is today, because he was willing to do stuff like that for the sake of entertainment. And so take us towards the end here.
So towards the end, Vader has a chair on the rampway. He hits Cactus Jack with a DDT on the chair, pins him, and he's down. They're both down, I should say. So since both guys had a pinfall on each other, I guess then the last man standing rules came into effect because the referee was counting both of them down. As Cactus Jack was getting up, Harley Race, I think, had a taser. He tased Cactus Jack's leg, and Vader won because he was the first man to get to his feet.
And so important to mention that Cactus Jack was getting up, but the ref was distracted by Vader. So that's why Harley Race was able to negate.
Which I don't see
Jack standing
why.
up. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's how Harley Race was able to negate Cactus Jack getting up and got him with the taser to the leg. And this is a very weird finish, and it just it shows the reputation WCW had at the time, where they were basically known for wonky booking. For regardless of what era they were in, that they had some weird things going on there, and just like to end a Texas death match on a taser to the leg, preventing you from getting up. I mean, it's creative.
Yeah.
It's kind of dumb at the same time.
See, the only problem I had with it was the fact that Harley had to sneak it in this no disqualification, no count out blood match, that he had to like wait for the referee's back to be turned, sneak the taser up, like just do it in front of him. Like what was the difference?
Yeah, like
unless it was like I want the count to continue, so the referee's gonna be distracted, then I'll tase him so that the count's at 9 and then 10.
Yeah, like that's basically the only way the spot was gonna work, is if the referee didn't see Cactus getting up.
What was Vader doing to distract the ref so much? I think because he was down, like trying to get up.
I don't know. It might have just been one of those things where he's like holding the ref and preventing him from turning to look behind him, and and while the ref can't turn to look behind him, like no one can. He can't see Cactus Jack getting back up, and then Harley Race stunning him, and then causing Cactus Jack to go back down because it was
a weird ending to a pretty entertaining match.
Yeah, it's just, this is what WCW has a reputation for, is just like wonky booking decisions.
At least it wasn't something on a pole match.
True, we'll get to that.
Harley Race on a pole match.
Oh, wow. That would be interesting.
You're thinking about it now, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right. So let's rate this match. Nico?
I'll give it a 3 because for the most part it was good. But not great, but good. It could have been better though.
Yeah.
If not for the fact that on a night where there were already so many weird decisions, so many finishes in which nobody officially won clean, this was a weird way to end the night.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. I would have given it 3, but that ending really did sour it for me. All right, so let's rate the show in general. Give it a letter grade.
C+.
Okay, I'm roughly around there, but I'm gonna give it a C-.
See, I'm being generous with it because of the fact that I have a feeling if I watch that tag match back, it'll be fun. I have a feeling that if I get another viewing of the TV title, the U.S. title matches, and the main event, if I watch that again, I'll have more of an appreciation for them. So there is potential there. Yeah, I feel like it's just slightly above average.
Yeah, it's just for me, there was a lot of wonky decisions that they made, especially in almost every single match. That the most I can give it is a C minus. All right. So before we head out, I do want to announce something, a new segment for next week. Next week's episode, and I haven't told you about this, but we're going to be doing our favorite wrestlers of the week segment. So whatever wrestler you thought impressed you the most over this week, you bring up as your wrestler of the week, and then you plug their stuff, whatever matches you want the fans to check out, all that stuff.
Huh.
So interesting, right?
Yeah, this is an interesting segment to spring on me. I'm gonna have to watch a lot of stuff over the next week just to know who did what, because I want to make sure everyone gets their due process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look some stuff up because I feel like there are gonna be some worthy candidates,
especially with the Progress show coming up this weekend. All right, guys. So we're gonna get to our plugs. Nico, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nicos Suave Regoli, and you can find me over at Multiplex Entertainment. That's the name of the Facebook group and the YouTube channel. The Twitter is at MultiplexYT. The Instagram is Multiplex Entertainment Network.
Isn't Mayhem at the Multiplex coming up tomorrow night?
I was going to get there, and if we're dropping this episode on a Saturday, then the Mayhem at the Multiplex is actually tonight. They're going to be 6 matches spread out over 3 videos. The movie Warzone Championship between Paulo Yama and Robert Parker will be on the line. The Phantom Fight Championship between Robert Parker and Alex Warden in a rematch from
not Colonel Robert Parker.
Yeah, yes, not the Colonel Robert Parker. Robert Parker will be competing for 2 different titles that night. If you saw TV Throwdown this week, you know that Jim Green, the general manager of TV Throwdown, is going to now be challenging for the title against former #1 contender Harley Borick. We will have our first match of the TV Throwdown fandom. Hopefully, if I win that belt, I can rename it Serial Sluggers. But for now, it's TV Fandom. The first match of the tournament will be between Grant Gregory and Richard Schwartz. We've got a sports battlefield match between Brooklyn Vale and Schmodown Community diehard Jonathan Peck. A lot of you will know him from Twitter. He's also big on the movie fights chats. And finally, we have the 2 personalities of Caleb Coho going at it in Fandom Fight. The King versus the Kid. That's going to be a fun one right there.
Anything else you want to plug before we head out?
I forgot everything else I was going to say. So, yeah, I guess we're good to go on my end.
Okay, and you guys can find me on Facebook at Hunter Chambliss. You guys can also find me over my YouTube channel, Phil Nerd TV, and of course at Multiplex Entertainment. And sorry I interrupted you, Nico, but you are on the TeePublic. Check out the TeePublic site. I believe it's just Multiplex, correct?
Yes, the TeePublic is just Multiplex. Check me out every Sunday hosting Around the League, because with Mayhem at the Multiplex being tonight, tomorrow on our end, but tonight on your end when this episode goes up, there will be a special post Mayhem at the Multiplex Around the League episode. Robert Parker, win or lose, he is going to be on there. Still working out who will be the other 2 panelists. It might be my buddies from House Night Fury, the Arrowverse champions, because from what Kane tells me, the Arrowverse championship match may finally be going up this Tuesday. So that we've been sitting on that match for a long time, and if not for the fact that Kane had to do some moving and if Jimmy Johns wasn't occupying his schedule, we could have gotten that match edited a while ago. It is what it is. You're going to get to see it now. It's going to be a fun match. I've seen it behind the scenes. Trust me, if you know the Arrowverse, you're going to be very impressed with this match.
All right, nice. And, of course, check out this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, wherever podcasts are sold. Rate, subscribe, and join our Facebook group, The Week of Wrestling. Just type that in on the Facebook. We have polls. We have daily updates, everything over there for you guys. So thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you guys soon. Peace.